Welcome to The Holistic Nurse with your host, Peggy Smith. Peggy will introduce and educate her viewers about the differences between alternative, holistic, and complementary medical therapies. Her goal is to empower the lay medical consumer to learn how to advocate for themselves. So now, please welcome the host of The Holistic Nurse, Peggy Smith.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. I'm Peggy Smith, a nurse of 45 years experience, and today my guest is Dr. Andrea Niestas, coming to us from Bakersfield, California. Welcome, Andrea. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
So,
having me.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I have my PhD in clinical psychology, and I have 25 years of experience working in mental health. 20 years of that was working in an inpatient behavioral health facility. And during that time, 15 years of that, I was in leadership manager. So I did a lot of training, mentoring, creating different kinds of programs. So the past few years, I was actually teaching at a local community college here, and then recently started my own life coaching business where I do individual coaching as well as community workshops. And that focuses on wellness, empowerment, mental health education, suicide awareness, along those lines.
Yes, every chance we get, we do try to share the suicide hotline and let people know that it's not just if you're suicidal, but to access resources.
Correct.
So I'm in Philadelphia, and I know we have a great disparity among populations of mental health services that are available. Are you finding, especially when we don't talk politics on the show, but especially with the political situation, obviously, I'm sure there's a greater than normal need. Do you have a lot of support for that population in California?
I think it really depends. Honestly, that 20 plus years that I did most of my work in mental health, I was in San Diego. Um,
Okay.
and now Bakersfield's in Central California. So even within the state, I could tell you there's a big difference. So the county resources that are available for individuals that are low income, I think people have to work here a little bit harder to find them. And there's probably less sort of nonprofit organizations. So I think it just really depends. But in general, every community has the 211 phone number. So that's always a good way to call and get different resources as well.
Okay. And in your coaching business, do you see clients virtually as well as in person?
Yes, I do both. And
Okay.
I really focus on helping people who are looking to not just be surviving life and dredging through, but really to strive to do better and be more fulfilled in their life.
So I think we all need a little bit of that. On the East Coast and the Midwest, in the middle states, we have a lot of bad weather that's stressing everybody out. And
Mhm.
at least we don't have earthquakes. I lived in Southern California for several years, experienced my first earthquake there, and hopefully my last. Tell us, what would you like to share with the viewers today?
So today I'm going to be talking about self-care. And self-care is hard for people to integrate into their life because everyone is very busy. So I really want to talk about how you can navigate the world of self-care and wellness and focus on yourself so that you're more present for other people, but fit it into a very busy schedule, as everyone has.
Okay, I've found a lot in my experience. It's not even so much the busy schedule as really just thinking that you're worthy of taking time to care for yourself.
Exactly. So actually that's going to be one of the points that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the first point I want to talk about though is I just want people to understand what self-care is. So self-care is not paying hundreds of dollars to go to the spa or go on a shopping trip to buy yourself something nice and feel better. So it goes really beyond that. And so as long as if people can understand what self-care actually is, then they can get a better idea of how they can actually apply it for themselves. So self-care is when you're caring for yourself, allowing yourself to be fully present in your life. Because when you're fully present in your life, you're going to be more emotionally ready to support the other people in your life. And there's different kinds of self-care. So there's emotional, spiritual, physical, personal, professional. So let me just mention this. When we're all done here, I compiled some resources that I do want to share with people. So as I go along, I'll explain some of the resources I have that I can send out for people. So one is going to be showing the different kinds of self-care and giving examples. Like, for example, emotional self-care is doing your positive affirmations. Physical self-care could make sure that you're getting enough sleep, whereas professional self-care could make sure that you're putting boundaries for yourself, for the work and the time that you spend at work. So there's different areas of self-care. And so really being able to look at this information that I'm going to send out will really help the viewers figure out where exactly they might need to improve and where they need to focus their area on improving the self-care in that area.
So anybody that would like a copy of that, you can either we'll give you doctor's email and contact information, but you can also leave a comment on the YouTube page, and I'll forward everything to you.
Okay. And so the second point I want to make is people say they don't have enough time for self-care. And that's what we're talking about, such a busy life. So how can you make more time? So I do have another resource that will give information on what do you do when you're too busy. So it'll say things like, by saving time, you can make one-pot meals. Boundaries, making sure that you always have your me time no matter what. But a few things that I do want to give suggestions on is to always start small. So just start for 5 minutes. And another resource I have is 2-minute stress relievers. They will give you ideas, simple things like stretching, simple things like doing something kind for someone else. So I have a whole nother conversation workshop that I have on kindness and how that not only helps the people we're being kind to, but actually how it helps ourselves. So another suggestion is to block off time in your schedule. So write it down as an appointment. I'm having me time. I'm going to meditate, even if it's for 5-10 minutes. Just write it down in your schedule. This is when I'm taking my break for the day, and this is what I'm going to do. Also, think about waking up 15 minutes earlier, or if you're not a morning person, winding down 15 minutes earlier in the evening. And that'll be able to give you that block of time that you can take back and start working on some of these self-care routines. Another is to use transition moments. So I can give you an example of what I used to do when I worked at the hospital, because it was very busy. There was always a lot going on. So what I would do is when I got into my car to go home, I would take 5 minutes, and I would actually time myself. So I'm going to take 5 minutes, whether it was just breathing, whether it was catching up on Facebook because I wasn't on it all day. I would just take 5 minutes before I even drove home. And then when I got home, if I needed it, I would actually take another 5 minutes. I would sit in my car before I went to the house and give another 5 minutes of whatever it is I felt that I needed. So using those transition times, whether it's listening to some meditations or positive affirmations in your car while you're commuting. So trying to use time that you already have and integrating some of these routines can really save some of that time. Another thing is to look at all of the mindless time that you're spending on your phone, on social media. I don't think anyone out there can say, oh, I don't use any sort of social media, or probably few people. Very few people can say, I don't spend any time on social media or scrolling on my phone and watching videos. So if you could be more aware of that, more cognizant of the time that you're actually spending on that, and try to take some of that time back. So it really comes down to prioritizing the time that you already have. So another resource that I'm going to send out is how to say no nicely to people. So if you can take time back by saying no to some of the requests that people make, you can still do it in a kind and nice way. You could say, I really appreciate you thinking about me. I just don't have the time right now, or it's not something that I can fit into my schedule. So I have a list of 20, 25 ways that you can actually say no in a nice way. So that will also help you take back some of your time. So back to what Peggy, you were saying about people have to feel like they're worth it. And people don't practice self-care sometimes because they feel guilty. So really the thing that you want to do, if that's the case, is you really just have to remind yourself that self-care is, it's not a right, or it's not something that you have to earn. You actually need it in order to be able to survive. It's going to help your mental well-being, your physical well-being, and so you really need it in order to just kind of get through your life in a healthy way. So the best way to do that is to practice self-compassion. So again, I have some resources of things that you can look at that will give you ideas. So, for example, saying no one has it figured all out. So I'm sure even every guest that you've ever had has is an expert in their field and knows a lot of information that they can pass on, but none of us still have it all figured out. So just remembering that nobody has it figured out and not comparing yourself to other people and having that self-compassion for yourself, saying it's okay to put myself first sometimes. So that's going to help with those feelings of guilt because you're taking time for yourself or being selfish and not taking care of other responsibilities. I think another way that one of the other barriers to practicing self-care is people just feel like they have no energy. So they worked all day, they took care of the kids all day. So how can they find the energy to be able to do what they need to do? So there's various different kinds of energizing breathing techniques. So I do have that also in a resource, giving you different examples and ways that um, different breathing techniques can actually help energize you by increasing the oxygen intake, helping with that sympathetic nervous system. So just one quick example that helps. There's actually several, but there's one that's called stimulating breath. And so you do this 3 cycles per second. So that's fast. So what you're going to do is rapid, shallow breathing in and out through the nose, 3 cycles per second. So you go. And there's various other ones, but just practicing those and finding out which one works better for you can really help with that energy. Also, just setting alarms. Again, like an appointment, you're going to set your alarm at 2 o'clock. I'm taking my break. And that's actually what I used to do. That's actually one of the things I used to do when I worked at the hospital. I would put it on my calendar in my Outlook, and I would say 2 o'clock, I'm taking my 10-minute break. And when that alarm rang, I would make myself get up, go outside, and take my 10-minute break. You can also try to reward yourself in some way. So say you have a show on Netflix or any of these streaming channels that you're watching. If I do my self-care routine, I am going to be able to watch the next episode of show X. And if you don't do your self-care routine, guess what? Show X will be there again tomorrow. And I bet you tomorrow you will
On
get your
that thought,
self-care
Andrea,
routine
we're
done.
going to take a brief break right now ourselves. We'll
Sure.
be right back.
Okay.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. And my guest today, Dr. Andrea Niestas from Bakersfield, California. And she's telling us all about how to and shortcuts to make it possible to take care of ourselves in a busy schedule.
So I was talking about the barriers to self-care when you have a busy schedule. And so the last one I wanted to talk about, as far as when you feel like you have no energy, is that if you have any of these meditation apps, the great thing about those apps is they have meditation for calming, meditation for energizing. So even listening to a specific routine or meditation can help when you feel like you don't have enough energy. And I think one of the last barriers of people who say they don't have time for self-care is just not, excuse me, not knowing how to do it. So I do have one resource, examples for self-care activities, and it'll tell you things specific to like social self-care is avoid toxic people, people that are draining that energy from you. Just avoid them and keep it simple. Try to do something more consistently, but if you miss a day, again, showing yourself that grace and compassion, you're just going to move on and you're just going to start right up again the next time. And another good way is to pair self-care with a routine. So while you're brushing your teeth, just like those transition times, while you're brushing your teeth, you can do some of that counting or some of that visualization that can help with your self-care. So I did come up with a 15-minute self-care routine that people can try that incorporates some of the things that have been shown in research to help with wellness and self-care. So I broke it up into 15 minutes a day, 3 5-minute segments. So in the morning, taking 5 minutes to write a positive affirmation. So creating an affirmation is making sure that it's about you, that it's something positive, and it's something in the present tense. So I am a great person. I am smart. So anything like that. So taking 5 minutes to write a positive affirmation and a goal for the day. And the goal could be as simple as I'm going to leave work on time today. I'm not going to stay overtime. I'm not going to stay over. Or it could be as big as today, I'm going to put in an application for a new job. So whatever goal that you can track yourself, and at the end of the day, if you've completed it, you'll be able to feel good about yourself and know that you got this done. So taking 5 minutes in the morning for positive affirmation and setting a goal for the day. And then take 5 minutes midday. And so 5 minutes midday, you're going to do 2 minutes of mindful breathing. So you can use an app for that. You can do it yourself. You don't even have to work on changing your breathing. You're just going to be mindful of noticing when you breathe in and when you breathe out. And then when you get used to that, maybe you can do, sort of meditation breathing that kind of helps you relax. But at first, just do some mindful breathing. Just notice when you're breathing in and breathing out. And then take 3 minutes. So that's 2 minutes of mindful breathing, 3 minutes of outside time. And I know people don't, in certain jobs, you can't always do outside time. So another suggestion to outside time instead is dancing. So the research shows when you move and dancing helps with those endorphins and that dopamine and feeling good. So that's your 5-minute routine during the day. So you're going to do mindful breathing and then a little bit of movement. And then 5 minutes in the evening, I suggest 2 minutes of reflection on the day. And all of this for the PM, if you like to write things down, then do it. If you don't like to write them down, then just close your eyes and think about it. Reflect for 2 minutes on your day. Did you hit that goal? Were you able to get everything else done in the day? Did that positive affirmation help you? And then take 1 minute of gratitude time. So what are you grateful for in the day? So what happened today that you could say, I can be grateful about that. And I suggest ending it with 2 minutes of visualization. So how would you like tomorrow to be? Would you like to do something different? Or did today work out and you want to do something the same? You want to do it all over again. So taking that 5 minutes for reflection, gratitude, and visualization is all that self-care is about. And you don't have to go spend money and buy things.
That really simplifies it because, when people think of self-care, they think about, eating healthy foods and, and almost denying themselves what might not be the healthiest for them. Um, so that, I really like that, your approach to that. That's easy to follow.
And they can,
Um,
yeah, they can do all that. And I have a list of other 15-minute self-care suggestions if they want to try those. But this just gives you small little snippets that you can kind of piece together. So you don't even have to take 15 minutes all at once. Just break it up throughout the day. It'll help you. It'll have that continuous effect for you throughout the day as well.
when
So
I used to make school lunches for my kids, I would stick a little note in their lunchbox, that,
yeah,
happy you're having a great day, whether they were or not, and, "Oh, I know I was having a great day, mom. Great, thanks."
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And if they
little things
weren't,
like
if,
that.
if
They
they
came
weren't
home
at
with a
that,
better attitude, yeah. Not as
yeah,
many complaints when they got home. Uh,
exactly. So I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about the difference between self-care and self-preservation as well. So self-care is when you're being proactive and you're nourishing your body and your mind and your heart, and you're trying to do things to improve your well-being. So you're looking at that thriving and not just surviving. And self-care is what actually fills your cup. What self-preservation is, it's really keeping what you have in your cup from trying to not spill over. Once you get into the point of self-preservation, you're really almost in a crisis mode at this point. So when you're like, oh my God, I need 2 minutes, I need to get out of here, I need to breathe, that's the place you don't want to get to. And so when you work on your self-care prior, what you're trying to do is you're trying to avoid those crisis moments where you're burned out and you're overwhelmed and you feel like you're just running on fumes. So that's what you want to try to avoid. Um, the self-preservation kicks in when you're feeling under stress or threatened. And it looks like you're really just doing the bare minimum to try to survive. And so looking at self-care as a preventative measure so that you don't get to that point can really help you realize how important it is. And if you just take the 5 minutes now, the 15 minutes today, 15 minutes tomorrow, so that you don't have yourself a crisis where you're just emotionally and physically depleted. I'm sure all of us can remember a time where you just lay there and say, I just can't do this right now. I just can't do it right now. So that self-care is that preventative, proactive approach so that you don't get to that place.
and, nurses we have an extra challenge because, there are days when it might be almost the end of the shift before we remember we haven't gone to the bathroom yet or,
Oh,
you
yeah.
you know,
And that happened with us at the behavioral health hospital too, because I worked in the admissions department. So I had clinicians and I had nurses on my staff, and we saw everybody that came into the hospital, did their evaluation assessment to figure out whether they needed to even come into the hospital. So sometimes it was assessment after assessment after assessment. And yeah, sometimes as a matter of fact, Peggy, I would put my lunch on my Outlook because my staff would come to me sometimes and say, did you have lunch yet? And I was like, huh, I don't think I did. So I would put my 10-minute break and I started putting my lunch into my Outlook calendar so that I would eat, I would remember to eat if I hadn't done so already.
we have to do what we have to do. Um,
Exactly.
a lot of people, they think affirmations are kind of corny.
Hmm.
But the way you're describing it doesn't even feel like the things from pop psychology back in the 70s and,
So I actually do some resource events where I have leftover worksheets from some of my workshops. I have other just like inspirational cards for people to take for free. So I do an activity every time I have a resource event. And I have a little board that says, leave an affirmation, take an affirmation. And what people do is they write a self affirmation for someone else, a positive affirmation for someone else, stick it on the board, and then I give them one that somebody else wrote. And then they take that with them. So when people say affirmations are corny, it may seem like it, it may feel like it, but trust me, if you get a little affirmation in your hand, um, people smile. They smile and it makes them feel good. And I actually do something similar when I do my Why Kindness Matters workshop as well. And people write an affirmation and then I switch them out and pass them to someone different. And so just getting that really affects people more than you would think. To have that and then be able to put it up on their mirror or at their desk so they can actually see it every day. So if someone doesn't want to do it themselves, ask someone else to do it for you. Ask a family member or friend, hey, what's something good about me? Because I don't know, it just feels weird. I can't do it myself. Fine. Have someone else do it and say, Peggy, I appreciate you. You're such a good friend. And that's your positive affirmation. And then you put it up. And you don't have to do the exact same routine that I mentioned. You can change it up. And like I said, I have other resources that I'm sending out and, pick what works for you. And if you really have a hard time, ask people for help. Tell them, here's a sticky, help me out.
Yeah, I know coworkers that really don't care for Chinese food at all, but they'll order with the group just for the fortune cookie to see what they that's kind of a simplified affirmation sometimes.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. Uh, so that there's kind of no way to make an excuse not to do it the way you're presenting and simplifying it.
Yeah, and that's why I started with the barriers because I kind of want to get I hate to say I want to get the excuses out of the way, but there's always going to be something. There's always going to be some competing um, request or demand from someone else, and it's never going to be easy. So let's talk about the barriers and how you can get past those, and then understand why self care is so important. And so you start out with all that information to begin with.
Okay. So that's well, I know like especially, if you've got a hectic home waiting for you when you get home, you really do need that transition time to decompress real quickly so you can deal with, the dogs and cats and everybody that wants you all at once.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking another break again and we'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back with the Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith and Dr. Andrea Niestas. Okay. So now we're talking about just why we want to take care of ourselves in case we didn't think we had a reason. And
Yes.
survival
So
is more than enough of a reason.
yes, exactly. So I did want to um, give this particular topic time and talk about when people remember why they're doing something, then it's a lot easier to stick to. So if you say, "Oh, I want to lose weight," and that's your New Year's resolution, what's the statistics within 3 weeks? 90% of those, New Year's resolutions are already down the toilet. But if you can remember the reason that you're doing it, I want to lose weight because of this, then that can help you stick to a routine much easier. So one of the resources that I'm sending out, so people call it their why. When I talk about holiday stress, I talk about what's the reason for the season. Keep your eye on the reason for the season when you have all this holiday chaos going on around you. But there is a worksheet that I'm going to send out as well, and it's called Writing Your Mission Statement. So the Wellness Journal will come a little bit later,
Okay.
but I'm going to send something out called Writing Your Mission Statement. And so it's really looking at um, what value is reflected in the reason that you're doing something. So it gives you a little template. So it says, I will, some kind of action for who's the audience, by doing what kind of skill, and two, whatever your desired result is. So I'll give you an example. Someone might say, I will lower my stress for my family by starting a 15-minute daily self-care routine to be more emotionally present. So when you're sitting there and you don't want to get up from the couch and you're like, I don't want to do this meditation thing right now, even though it's on my calendar. If you think, well, what's your mission statement? What is the reason why you set this goal to begin with? Because every time you walk through the door, coming home from work, like Peggy said, you're fried. You're fried. You don't want anyone to talk to you. You know, get away from me. The dogs, oh, you can wait 2 minutes. But if you remember that the reason why you're doing it is so that you can recharge yourself, you can be energized, you can be emotionally ready for your family, then it's going to be a lot easier to be able to stick to it if you remember the reason why. So this is why I really like this worksheet, and I want to make sure to share it with everybody. So even if you don't do it exactly like this, just write something out. What is the reason? What is your why? Why are you doing this? When we talk about something that it reflects your value, what is pretty much comes down to why is it important, or what is important to you exactly, and why are you doing this?
Okay, that certainly makes it easier to stick to something that might seem uncomfortable at first, or at least, if it's not your part of your normal routine, a little bit awkward.
Mhm.
Um,
And even, I mean, even if you think about other examples, not necessarily related like right to this, but even at work, how many times have your boss said, "Okay, this is something new that we have to do," and everybody's like, it's such a waste of time. Why this is dumb. Why do we have to do it?" But if they say we have to do it because this is a new legal requirement, or if you worked in hospitals, Peggy, you got the Joint Commission guidelines and state requirements and all of this. So when people can understand why they have to do something, so this is a new risk assessment measure that we have to do because we want to make sure that we're reducing the risk of suicides of people when they're in the hospital. Okay, well, people can understand that. So when they can understand the why and the reason behind it, they can get behind that a little bit more, as opposed to just throwing out, this is just something new that you have to do.
and I think, um, especially when you're already in healthcare related fields, just to hear we're doing this because it's evidence-based practice, we need a little bit more than that usually, because that tends to, you know, create a negative connotation, although it shouldn't, because
Yeah.
sometimes they create these evidence-based practices to meet the insurance guidelines, uh,
Well,
requirements of.
And that's why I like how this form has what's the desired result.
Right.
So your mission statement ends with what's your desired result. So it could be like this example to be emotionally present for your family. It could be um, to stay healthy because you just turned 45 and you just had an appointment with a cardiologist and things weren't looking so great, So what is your desired outcome? You want to have a healthier heart, you want to be not so burnt out when you get home. Whatever the case is, you use this worksheet to kind of think about these things and figure out what is a reason why it's important to you and what is the ultimate outcome that you want to get to. So not, you try to be as specific as possible. You don't necessarily just want to say, oh, I don't want to be as stressed anymore. What does that mean? Stress for me is going to look different than what stress to Peggy looks like. So you want to try to put a little bit more thought into it, get a little bit more specific. Well, what does not stressed mean? Well, I started having heart palpitations a month ago. I'd like to get rid of those, you know? So now you have something more concrete that you can work on and that you can sort of track, like, oh, it's been 2 months since I've been doing this and I haven't had any heart palpitations since then. So having something more concrete and, as they say, measurable, that will definitely help as well, being able to track your progress.
And measured research has proven for years that stress is one of the leading causes of cancer, many of the autoimmune problems, um, heart attacks, obviously, and it's one of the leading causes, I guess, of suicide. In a global perspective. So, by the way you present your little bites of stress busters, that's what you should call your practice, stress busters, because you won't need Ghostbusters if you can control your stress.
Well,
Uh,
and even like I said, one of these worksheets that I'm sending out is 2 minute stress relievers. So it even breaks it down even more. Sometimes I would go to sometimes I would go to the conference room and turn off the lights and put my timer on for 2 minutes because being a manager, everybody has questions for you. Everybody needs help. Sometimes I would just say, I am not home. I would go hide, turn off the lights, and I would just put my timer on for 2 minutes and just pretend that nobody knows where I am. Like the cloak of invisibility. And it really was just 2 minutes to get away and do nothing.
so
So it doesn't
that's
have to be complicated. It can definitely be simple, but really behind the whole purpose of the self care is really just to understand what's important to you and what is your desired outcome that you want. So you
I
don't
think
even have
many
to have,
times we're so busy, we don't even have time to know why we're busy or what our goal is. Um,
yeah, and you can even do, I mean, when we're talking about time, you don't have time, do an assessment of your time one day, just write down some notes. Okay, what did I do from 8 to 9? What did I do from 9 to 10? And if you look back at it, you might be like, wow, like that was, when you get stuck on TikTok,
right?
sometimes sometimes I just can't stop. I mean, you're like, okay, one more video or 5 more minutes. And an hour later, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was such a
It's
waste of.
even like when you go to look up something on AI or Google, and next thing you know, you're 20 subjects away from where you started and killed
Yes,
a half hour. So,
yes, yes. And so that's why alarms are good. I have a Alexa dot. So sometimes, I'll say set a timer in 5 minutes. And then when that alarm goes off, it's going to remind you like, hey, get off the phone. You're done scrolling. If I said 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. So sometimes you just need a little bit of outside help if you're having trouble doing it by yourself.
right. And I think we all need to get better at not catching so many of the headlines. You don't have to watch, nobody watches the 6 o'clock news anymore. So we're getting it every 6 minutes, and I think
Mhm.
that increases everybody's stress.
Yes.
Um, so as we go on, well, the next section will be shorter, I guess. Do you want to begin to talk about, how we're going to reach you or how we can access these forms? Um,
Sure. So, to connect with me, there's many ways that you can do that. I'm all over social media, but I do have that daily wellness journal. If excuse me, that wants to get popped up again. Um, so I actually have a um, digital worksheet collection that I've created. So this is just one of those sheets. I have over 50, I believe. So this one's called the Daily Wellness Journal, and it really just kind of guides you through every day of things that you can make sure that you're watching. So even this is even like monitoring your water intake. You know, what
I
it gives
like
you a
that.
space
Yes.
there for your positive affirmation. There's a space there for gratitude. So even if you don't use the 15-minute plan that I mentioned, you know, you can use this form and you can do something different every day. Today, I'm just going to focus on gratitude. Today, I'm going to focus on my physical activity. And so you don't even have to use the entirety of the form every single day, but it gives you at least a guide. And so it gives you ideas and it helps you be able to take the thinking and the hard work out of it. So the sheet itself, it just I have the watermark just for you know,
Mhm.
copyright. But when I send it out, it's going to be the regular form that you can download, you can print, and you just reuse it over and over again, share it with someone else. So this resource I'm going to have available, and I will send it out to anyone who contacts me. Um, and so my email, you can email me or you can send me a message via my website. It all goes into the same mailbox. So my email is dogoodbyandrea@gmail.com. And my website is lifecoachingbyandrea.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And then all of the other social medias is pretty much just Life Coaching by Andrea is how you'll get in touch with me. So you can, like I said, email me or you can get onto my website, send me a message that way. And I have even more resources than I mentioned. I mean, I mentioned some of them pointed out as we were going, but I do have quite a bit. Whenever I do workshops or Zoom workshops, I always like to keep give people something tangible that they can take with them. And so they're not just like, oh, well, that was great, but now, you know, out of sight, out of mind, you know, that was great. I'll think about doing it someday. But if you get a little gift in your email box and you open it up, then you have something that you can work on and you can take with you and you can print and you can put up on your wall and see every day and have it available. So you can email me, go to my website, and I'll send you all of that information.
Okay, we're going to take our final break, and then maybe when we come back, you can leave us with some positive messages going forward, and you know how to get this rolling.
All right.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant. Like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Welcome back to The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith and Dr. Andrea Niestas. We've been talking about learning how to take care of ourselves on a shoestring time budget, we'll call it. Lots of really great ideas that make it hard to have an excuse not to take care of yourself. How would you like to close the show with this?
Well, I just want people to understand that self-care is not selfish. And if you look at the end result, like what is that desired outcome that you want that we were talking about? That desired outcome usually is pointed towards someone else or something else. So you're changing your behavior, doing something different to help yourself because eventually it's going to help someone else. And so if you look at that domino effect, that when I don't take any time and I just jump in my car and come home and walk to the door, no one wants to be around you at that time. You're cranky, you're tired, you're this and you're that. But the more that you take care of yourself and feel more emotionally available, then you're going to come home a lot different. You're going to come home a different person. And so if you remember that it's not selfish, because in the end, it's not really only about you, but it's about how the change in you is going to affect other people and other things in your life as well.
I think it's important to remember to maintain a sense of humor too.
Yes.
That helps us, tolerate taking care of ourselves better.
Yes. Well, and that's why I put in the dancing in there. If you
Yeah.
can't get outside or you don't want to go outside, you have to take the elevator, it's not worth it today, then you know what? Close the door to your office or go to the break room and just dance, just move, just have fun. You don't have to know how to dance. And if all else fails, just jump. Just jump and flap your arms around.
Well, remember in elementary school, they used to sometimes have us stand up in the aisles and do jumping jacks or something, or
Yeah.
march your in place, things like that. Gets
Yes.
the blood circulating.
Yes, absolutely. And so just come up with your own marching dance routine, whatever it is that you can think of, and, you know, um, be silly. Like again, it's a whole nother conversation, but, getting to the point where you could say, like, who cares what people think, doesn't matter what people think. You're just going to do your own thing, as they say, do you, and, what does it matter to anyone else?
Right.
I know it's hard to get to that point, but, especially after, I had a very long illness and uh, experience of being in the hospital for a long time and surgeries, and, it gives you a different perspective. So we're saying, you know, you're going to do your own thing, and, other things don't matter. You realize what doesn't matter in life. And so, does it matter that someone saw you dancing in the break room while you're taking your 3-minute dance break? I mean, who's going to remember in 5 years, 20 years?
Well, many people don't reach that point of understanding what does really matter unless you've been through a life-threatening, serious illness. And it's so much nicer to be that way when you're healthy too. And, I learn you s- so that way if you have the unfortunate, experience of having that unhealthy, time in your life, at least you're better equipped to handle it. It's not going to feel like the end of the world.
Exactly. And actually was just having a conversation with someone that, sometimes people go through illnesses or issues when they're 60, 70, and it leaves them much less limited time to be able to see that new perspective and make that change. So in some ways, I'm lucky in that way that, the perspective for me changed and I know what's important in life now. And so I hope nobody else has to go through that. And so just take my word for it that it doesn't matter. There's some things that it just doesn't matter. Just do your
No,
thing and be
but
you.
you
And
matter, and you yourself, each one of us, we all matter, and
yeah,
no one's going to take care of us except ourselves in the end.
yes, yes. And you have to have that self-compassion and self-care. And that example of, what would you say to a friend? If you
Well,
make a
if you
mistake.
want to piss a nurse off and she's like not being reasonable, if you say, "Well, what would you tell your patients?" That'll piss a nurse off. 'Cause at those moments, we don't want to hear that.
Yeah, what are you going to tell your friend when she said she took on too much responsibility? I don't know why I said yes. I don't know why I would do that. What would you tell your friend? And I bet you it's different than what you're actually telling yourself in your head.
Absolutely. Well, we're just about out of time today. I want to thank you for joining us, and please, follow up with all of your doctor's links. There are really some good resources, and there's no excuses not to try at least some of them. You'd be
Yes,
surprised.
yes.
Um,
Lifecoachingbyandrea.com. You can send me a message and I'll send you all of these resources straight into your mailbox. And then follow me on social media. Let's connect.
so, well, thank you for joining us. Have a great week and stay healthy. It's been a great show. I appreciate having you come today.
All right. Thank you so much, Peggy. And thank you,
Bye,
Zach.
everybody. Have a good week. Take care.
This has been The Holistic Nurse with host Peggy Smith. Tune in each week where you're encouraged to send in questions and receive private responses and suggestions if appropriate. Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern,